Dear Taurus, there's a revelation waiting just for you. Imagine a photograph of your face resting on an altar held by two women, a mother and her daughter. But the true significance of this moment doesn't lie with them. It resides within your own steadfast soul, seeking to awaken. Have you ever felt inexplicably drained, haunted by heavy dreams, or sensed a shadow lurking over your peace? You're not imagining things, dear one. Something has been set in motion to keep you ensnared in stagnation. Who are these figures? Why have they chosen to act this way? And how can you break free from this unseen altar? If you feel a stirring within you, as if your soul is recognizing a long-awaited truth, don't turn away. This journey will guide you back to the moments when you lost connection with yourself, paving the way for a profound, grounded rebirth. Let's begin our exploration with the first chapter, the manipulator who masquerades as love and stability. Not every adversary approaches with hostility. Some enter your life with warm smiles and gestures of care, only to serve you a bitter brew of entrapment. There are hands that once cared for you tenderly, eyes that gazed upon you with affection. Yet have you ever felt that those familiar comforts made your spirit shrink, your growth feel stifled? You once called them family, people you trusted deeply, but a whisper of intuition hinted that something was amiss, a false peace. You may have experienced an unnamed heaviness, a distortion between what felt truly safe and what was merely disguised control, a pain that had no clear source but settled deep within. Listen closely, Taurus. Two female souls, a mother and daughter, have placed your image on an altar. This is no mere superstition. It's a form of soul entrapment, born from their obsession with control and their own unresolved trauma. They didn't act out of malice, they were threatened by your steadfastness and potential brilliance. Your inner light, your inherent stability, illuminated their darkness and insecurity. Rather than seeking their own healing, they chose to control you, to diminish you, to confuse you, and to mold you into a version that was easier to manage, one that wouldn't disrupt their stability. One of these women is likely a blood relative, a mother, stepmother, or another maternal figure who once cared for you in ways that felt stifling. She may have taught you the art of silent sacrifice, the value of stability at all costs, and that enduring for others is a noble path. Yet, beneath her guidance lay a fear of abandonment, dependency, and an unarticulated emotional debt you could never voice. The other woman could be a close friend, a former lover, someone who once meant everything to you. Though that relationship may seem over, the energetic ties remain intact. In their minds, you still belong to them, to the comfort and familiarity you provided. Your departure or change wasn't seen as growth. It was perceived as betrayal, a disruption of order. They cling to pieces of your energy through photographs, objects, or unspoken curses disguised as concern. They wield memories instead of knives, whispering into the spaces around you rather than shouting. They don't bind your hands. They bind your belief in your ability to change and seek true happiness. Their love is possessive, and when you began to seek your true self, to escape that safe cage, they felt betrayed. Thus, they placed you on an altar, not to honor you, but to imprison you within an outdated image of a Taurus who is always compliant, passively stable, always in need of control for safety. Here's a lesson to carry with you. Family, if not rooted in freedom and respect for individual growth, can become invisible shackles on the soul. Love, if born from fear of losing familiarity, morphs into a spell that binds two people in silent suffering. You may have thought you couldn't sever ties due to emotional or material debts, but ask yourself, does true love ever demand you to shrink your soul just to survive, just to maintain superficial peace? Does someone who genuinely loves you need to manipulate, curse, or perform rituals just to keep you close? There are people who resist your departure, not out of love, but because you are the source of energy, the stability they rely on to sustain themselves. You are not to blame for loving wholeheartedly. You are not at fault for remaining silent when something felt off. You are not guilty for giving too much, for too long, too deeply. Taurus, you are the warm, radiant light caught in a dense web of emotional manipulation disguised as care and protection. The miracle is that your light has never extinguished. You simply forgot where it resided, buried under the weight of others' claims of love. You don't need to fight to prove your worth. You need only to rise and remember your inherent steadfast light within your soul. You are not destined to be held captive on someone else's altar. You were born to live freely, to enjoy the beauties of life, and to liberate the generations before you who never dared to embrace their own freedom. If a face is surfacing in your thoughts, someone who once manipulated you in the name of love or care, write down their name, or even just the first letter. This is not an act of cursing them, but a way to detach from the energy they still hold. This is how you reclaim your power, through a silent acknowledgement that the universe hears, even if you think it doesn't. But remember, what they did pales in comparison to what you've endured in silence. The days when you couldn't understand your stagnation and exhaustion, the dreams you feared to share, the tears that fell without reason, and those moments when you wished to vanish, not because of a specific event, but because of the weight of it all. You may have thought, maybe I'm just weak, or maybe I'm not trying hard enough. No, Taurus, you are not weak. You are carrying burdens that were never yours to bear. And that's what we need to discuss next. Stay with me, for when you understand the source of your exhaustion and stagnation, you will begin to reclaim the power to release it forever. You might think your fatigue stems from overwork, but your soul is shouldering someone else's anger, insecurity, or fear. Have you ever awakened feeling as though you've just survived a silent battle? Your body feels heavy, your mind tangled like a spider's web, and your heart so silent it frightens you. You struggle to understand why, whenever you attempt to embark on something new, a positive change, something always pulls you back into a false sense of safety. You may find yourself arguing with those closest to you, especially when you feel most fragile. You can't explain the emptiness spreading within, even when nothing significant seems to be happening externally. You wonder, am I just overthinking? No, Taurus, that's not it. You are being weighed down by invisible threads, tied to the very people you once loved deeply, the ones you trusted for the stability they seem to offer. Listen closely. The heavy dreams, the unnamed stagnation, the recurring disappointments, these are remnants of an energetic manipulation ritual. It's not merely about black magic, as you may have heard. It's far more subtle. It's the intentions repeatedly directed toward you through objects, words, glances, and even seemingly sweet pity. You were once the focal point of a silent ritual, not in temples with flames and bells, but right in your own home, where every word, every object, and every unconscious thought gradually piled up, trapping you in an invisible cage. A cage without a lock, yet one that felt impossible to escape. They didn't require blood or curses, just a forgotten bracelet left behind, just gazing at your photo each night. Not to remember you, but to siphon your energy, to keep you in place. Just whispering your name in tearful conversations, not to pray for you, but to curse you under the guise of love and concern. Energy flows like water. It always seeks the lowest point. With your open heart, your unguarded loyalty, and your trusting soul, you have become a refuge for others' pain. You are the well into which they toss stones, the wall they lean against when they falter, and then blame when that wall begins to crack under the weight. You've struggled to sleep without understanding why. You've felt drained even when you've barely left your home. You've thought, maybe I'm just overthinking. No, Taurus, that's not it. You're being pulled down by invisible threads, connecting you to those you once loved, those who wanted to keep you within their orbit of safety. When you fail to recognize who is holding your energy, you begin to doubt yourself. You start believing you're lacking. You blame yourself for not being good enough, not strong enough, not wise enough. You settle for less because you think that's all you deserve. You love in silence, fearing that expressing your love openly will hurt others, while you are the one spiraling into despair. But it's time to reclaim your light, your peace. You cannot heal if you allow others to hold the key to your energy. You cannot rise if you're still tethered to an ex's obsession or a relative's unresolved anger or need for control. You cannot walk away from that altar if deep down you believe you deserve to remain there, in that stable prison. The moment you realize this is the moment the invisible loop begins to break. You don't need revenge. You don't need to confront them face to face. You don't need to prove anything to the world. You simply need to call your own name and declare, I reclaim my soul. I take back every piece of light, every bit of peace that was ever stolen from me by false love, conditional pity, and pain that was never mine. Picture a circle of steadfast, warm light expanding around you, every thread from objects, dreams, glances, and words gently falling away. You don't need to sever them. You no longer resonate at that frequency. But how do you break free completely? Not just in thought, but in action. Not just with tears, but with choices. How do you step away from that altar? Not just with your body, but with your entire soul. In the next part, I will introduce you to a feminine soul who has always stood by you, from past lives to now, and share a simple yet powerful healing ritual that can close the ancient energy gateways you've been traversing unconsciously each night. We will not retreat any longer. We will rise with sacred, grounded strength, and you will feel it deep within your heart. One emotional hook. Some wounds cannot be healed by medicine. They can only be soothed by a calling from somewhere far away. A place you may not remember, but have always sensed. Taurus, have you ever felt a presence you couldn't name? A gentle breeze brushing your neck as you weep. A beam of light breaking through heavy curtains at the moment you're about to give up. A wordless voice in a dream, awakening you in the middle of the night without knowing why you're still here. You might dismiss it as coincidence or a tired mind, but the truth is, there's an ancient feminine soul, perhaps a grandmother, a spiritual ancestor you've never met, who has been holding you close every single night. When you feel alone, when the world feels too heavy, when every prayer seems to fall into silence, there's an invisible hand that cradles you. This is no illusion. It's the sacred presence of a feminine soul who once walked your bloodline through many lifetimes. She is the guardian protecting you from curses, manipulative rituals, and energies that seek to stifle your awakening and growth. And now she is not merely protecting you, she is offering you a ritual, a gentle doorway to liberation, allowing you to step out of the prison that has held your light and peace captive. You don't need to burn incense in a temple or make extravagant offerings. She asks only one thing: choose yourself through truth, through reconnecting with your inherent worth. The ritual she imparts is a direct connection between you and the soul you once forgot. You can perform this ritual at any time. When you feel ready, find a quiet space. Place a white or earth-toned candle before you, a clear glass of water, and a sprig of herbs, perhaps rosemary, sage, or a bit of sea salt, or even a small stone for grounding. Sit down, place your hand over your heart, and speak slowly, as if calling someone home from afar. I call my soul back to me. I release every invisible curse placed upon me. I close all old doors and step into new light, new steadfastness. If you wish, write down all the emotions, memories, and wounds you want to let go of on a piece of paper. When you're finished, burn it. Let the fire express the words you've never dared to say. Fire needs no justification. It only requires truth. Then take the herbal water, salt water, or hold the stone you prepared and wash your hands, your face, or your heart with the self-respect you deserve. Taurus, the most miraculous part of this ritual isn't material, it's sincerity, it's honesty with your own soul. No one else can do this for you. No one else can cleanse what you've silently endured for far too long. Energy doesn't need to be complicated to be powerful. A room cleansed with salt water, herbs, and blessings can hold more strength than an altar built on manipulative intent. A heart that chooses kindness and self-worth can shatter dark barriers fed by resentment and control. You don't need to be grand. You don't need to be anyone's master. You simply need to care for yourself as a soul deserving of freedom and peace. When you do this, the old curse dissolves, not because you fought against it, but because you no longer resonate with its frequency. Taurus, you can reclaim every piece of energy, every bit of stability that was ever taken from you in the simplest way, by gently calling your own name. No need to shout, just whisper. Place your hand over your chest and say, I am here. I am alive. I do not belong to any altar except the altar of light and steadfastness within my own heart. That grandmother is still with you. She isn't going anywhere. Every time you light a candle, every time you cleanse your space, every time you write a letter to free yourself, she smiles, knowing her grandchild, the child once imprisoned by false love and control, is beginning to step into their true power, to reclaim their inner peace. If you've ever felt something save you without knowing why, write down that moment as a way to thank the grandmother your soul still remembers, even if you never saw her face. That very act of writing is the first incense, smokeless, yet resonating all the way into the spiritual realm. But be aware, Taurus, not everyone desires your freedom and growth. When your light begins to shine, when your peace becomes evident, darkness will struggle, and someone may be preparing to return, not out of love, but out of a desire to regain control, to pull you back to their safe, familiar zone. Don't trust too quickly. Don't open the door too soon. In the next segment, I'll guide you on how to recognize someone returning, not out of love, but out of obsession with control or dependency on your stable energy. More importantly, I'll share how to ensure you never revert to the old version of yourself, the one they once manipulated. Listen closely to your intuition this time. Don't disconnect from your inner voice, your body sensations. Are you sensing that someone is thinking of you constantly? Are old dreams resurfacing? Messages from someone who once shattered your heart or stifled you? Memories knocking at your door, even though you thought you had locked it long ago? Don't rush to chalk it up to coincidence. Not everyone who returns does so out of love. Some people only come back because they can't bear the thought of you thriving, finding happiness and stability without them. They don't need you. They need the power, the steadiness you once inadvertently gave them. Taurus, you have the right to keep that door closed, not out of anger, not because you haven't forgiven, but because you no longer live in that old version of yourself. You are no longer the one who tries to understand why others hurt you while maintaining superficial stability. You are no longer someone who believes suffering or self-sacrifice is a prerequisite for love or acceptance. You don't need to play the healer or the burden bearer for anyone anymore. You don't need to dim your light or stifle your growth to soothe those who fear their own darkness or insecurity. You deserve to choose to love yourself again by refusing to step back into the place that once imprisoned your soul, the place that once stole your peace and joy. True love does not need to imprison anyone to endure. True love requires no proof, no winning, no possession. It flows like a river, gentle and nurturing. It remains not because you are weak or compliant, but because you are free and steadfast within it. You deserve that kind of love, the kind that uplifts you, that reminds you of your worth, not the kind that makes you forget who you are or makes you lose connection to your joys and growth. You are not the one left behind. You are the one who chose to walk away when no one believed you had the courage to do so, to break that false stability. You survived, and now you are rising, reclaiming your inner steadfastness. If someone attempts to return in their old form with old promises, write down, "I no longer live in the version you once knew." This is how you lock the old door, not with anger, but with choice and self-respect. It's time not just to survive, but to truly return. It's time to stop moving through life with a closed heart, fearing pain or loss. It's time to open a new door, not for someone else to enter, but for you to step out, to enjoy the world with all its richness. The next chapter will not be a warning. It will be the victory song of your soul, a symphony of inner peace and strength. It's the moment you realize that no ritual can bind you, no darkness can reach you, and no one can take away what you have chosen to keep for yourself, your peace, your joy, your self-worth. In the next segment, I'll guide you to the place where the Taurus soul rises fully, where no one can hold you back, where no wound can make you turn around. You once wore your wounds and burdens like a heavy cloak. Now, you are the steadfast light that makes others squint when they look at you. They were accustomed to seeing you with your head bowed, witnessing your silent endurance, thinking you would never rise again. They once said behind your back, "That one is weak and predictable. They'll never change." They believed all it would take was one look, one reproach, one silence, or one false concern, and you'd come running back, seeking familiar safety. Taurus, they were mistaken. No one could have predicted that you would transform your burdens into a solid foundation, your endurance into resilient strength. Now, they are the ones squinting as your light of confidence and peace surpasses everything they thought they knew about you. You have overcome what they believed would break you or hold you forever. You have emerged from the silent ritual they once performed, reclaiming your power and stepping into your true self, steadfast and free. No longer are you bound by their expectations or their definitions of who you should be. You have shattered the cycle of manipulation that sought to keep you small and predictable, and now you stand tall, radiating the light of self-possession and peace that was always within you. The darkness of stagnation and self-doubt that once surrounded you has begun to dissipate. You've learned to trust your instincts, to listen to that inner voice that guides you toward freedom and true joy. With each passing day, you are becoming more aware of your strength, your resilience, and your ability to rise above the shadows of your past, to build a bright future on your own solid ground. The heavy silence that once thickened around you has started to lift. You're sleeping more soundly, laughing more freely, and your dreams no longer haunt you as they once did. You've stopped feeling the need to explain yourself to those who never deserved to know your story. The people who once manipulated you are now disoriented because the way you've stood up for yourself is both quiet and undeniable, steadfast and firm. They no longer see you in the space they once claimed as theirs because you've shifted your energy, and that change has severed their connection to you. Where you once felt heavy with burdens, you now feel lighter, unshackled from the chains that held you down, free to enjoy life's simple pleasures. The final lesson of this journey is clear. You don't need revenge. You don't need to take anything back. You don't need them to understand you, to regret, or to apologize. What you need is to live authentically, true to the light and steadfastness you've chosen to embrace. This alone is the most powerful declaration to the universe and to all those who once tried to dim your shine or stifle your growth. As you move forward without making noise, you're planting seeds of healing for those who were once trapped like you. When you smile again, not to provoke regret, but to fully experience each moment, you are reshaping the karmic map of your soul's lineage. You no longer need to look back, not to forgive, not to confront, not to remember, but simply because behind you lies a soul reborn, a Taurus who has reclaimed inner peace and strength. Taurus, you are no longer someone in need of saving. You are the one who rekindles the light within yourself, the one building your own stability. You don't require validation from others to know your worth. You have chosen yourself. You have chosen life. From this point forward, you are the very miracle you once sought outside of yourself. If someone asks you how you managed to overcome everything, smile and say, "I sat with myself and chose not to leave again. I chose my own peace and joy." You owe no one an explanation for your resurrection because your soul does not need justification. It needs to be lived fully and freely, enjoying life's goodness. If you have journeyed with me this far, if your heart feels lighter now, more grounded, if you sense you've crossed a threshold into a new reality, take a moment to write it down. Not as a comment, but as a ritual. Share what you are ready to release, a memory, a name, a feeling that once held you back. Write as if your soul is witnessing this moment, as if your ancestors are reading alongside you. When a Taurus writes down what needs to be released, it not only sets you free, but also liberates the souls who were once held through you. This act becomes a silent declaration. I am no longer held back. I am no longer a victim. I no longer need anyone to save me. I am my own salvation, my own source of peace. And from here on, nothing can hold you back. No curse can define you. No past can force you to relive an old version of yourself. From this moment forward, there is only light, steadfastness, and joy. There is only you, whole, sacred, and unextinguishable. If you have ever stood up alone after everything, write that story down as a lifeline to another Taurus. Perhaps they are silently reading your words, and knowing that someone else once stood alone is enough to keep them from falling tonight. Thank you for listening, not just with your ears, but with your steadfast soul. In a world that often rushes by, you chose to pause and return to yourself. I wish you enough light to keep moving forward and enough grounding to recognize the strength within you. You never truly lost that light, nor your resilience. And if today you take away just one thing, let it be the belief that you are still being watched over, still being protected, and forever loved more than you know.